We finally found my missing uncle after 50 years. Okay, so growing up as kids, my parents had always sort of told us about this uncle that we have on my dad's side, and I'll just call him Bob. And he basically hadn't been seen since like the late 70s when him and my dad caught up in Sydney, I think, because my dad was about to go sail around the world and Bob was meant to go back to Europe because they're all from Austria, right? So they caught up and then that was it. They haven't heard anything since. Now, it's not uncommon for people in this family to just change their name and like kind of disappear. We weren't surprised that we hadn't heard from him in such a long time, but it was getting to this stage where we were kind of like, are we gonna find him? Because, you know, my mum was big into like family ancestry and she was reaching out to family members all over the world and finding out stories from them, blah, 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 about all these other different family members. But so she was always able to find someone, but for some reason she was never able to come across him. And, you know, it got to the stage where he hadn't reached out to any family. We had like one run-in where my grandma, so his mum, said that she believed he was knocking on her door and like trying to talk to her and everything like that. But this was towards the end of her life where she was going a bit. And then about, I think I'd say 2 years ago now, my parents received a phone call from the police up in the Northern Territory. Turns out my older brother had entered like a DNA swap for one of those ancestry websites. You know, when you're trying to find out like how much you are of this background and blah, 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 okay? The police have started using these for a lot of the cold cases that they've got coming across, and they're getting a lot of success. Like, they're able to close, like, a lot of things. So they called because apparently my brother's DNA matched with one of their cold cases from the late 80s. When they called, they didn't give us a lot of information. They just sort of asked if we had anyone missing. And we had mentioned that we had an uncle missing, or my dad's brother, and he'd been missing for a long time, since the late 70s. Now, they just sort of said, oh, well, we've got this cold case from the early 80s, and we would like to get your DNA and see if we can match it. So they ended up sending some police down from Adelaide to where my parents are to get my dad's DNA to see if it was a better match. So